Well, hello there, action movie connoisseurs. This is Action Movie Rewind on Mackey and Judd, where we do deep dives into some of the most prominent and popular action movies of all time. And we have decided that this is the season finale of Action Movie Rewind here for the summer finale. We will absolutely 1,000% be bringing this back later on, but with football season taking over and winter sports upon us here in a few weeks as well. This is going to be, I think this is like the 18th or 20th episode we've done in the reboot here, boys. So we've got, if you've missed any of them, they're all available. You can either search the Saturday episodes of Mackey and Judd in the podcast feed or go to our Score North YouTube channel. There is a playlist where you can just sit there all weekend and watch us review these movies. And so we have now zoomed our way down the freeway to the fourth installment of the Fast saga, Fast and Furious, or Fast and the Furious 4, depending on how you want to label this movie, from 2009. Are you guys ready to do a dive into the actual sequel to the original Fast and the Furious? It only took them like a decade and two other movies, and this is the actual sequel.
So 2 was a little bit because O'Connor's character was in, but Vin Diesel wasn't. So Dom being out. So this is the first time that we went back to Los Angeles and got the whole band back together. Is that correct?
Yeah, the band is back together here.
And we skipped 3 entirely because
we skipped
3. Not needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not needed.
And so we have landed here on the fourth installment here, and here is the description. When a crime brings them back to the mean streets of L.A., fugitive ex-convict Dom Toretto and Agent Brian O'Connor reignite their high-octane feud. However, when a common enemy rears its head, Dom and Brian must learn how to work together and trust one another in order to defeat them. Only a disrespectful 28% on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie. And the critics' consensus says, while Fast and Furious features the requisite action and stunts, the filmmakers have failed to provide a competent story or compelling characters.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Despite that, they spent $85 million on this movie and turned it into $360 million at the box office. Are you kidding me? Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Michelle Rodriguez, briefly, Jordana Brewster, and a young Gal Gadot before she really hit superstardom in this movie.
It was her second major film, first real major film, I should say. According to her IMDb page, this is the second movie listed in her entire career. So this kind of was the first real stardom, I guess, of Gal Gadot.
Yeah, and is it Gadot or Gadot? I don't even know.
It's Gadot. It's Gadot.
Okay. Yeah, she also has 90 million Instagram followers now. So she's, I think she's become the biggest of all of these actors and actresses. So a few production notes before we get into the statements portion here. Like I said, this is the first real sequel to the original. The second and third installments were missing Vin Diesel, who declined participation in those two movies due to lackluster writing, and yet still wound up just, I guess, love the writing in Triple X and Riddick or whatever, some of these other weird movies he was in.
But what did he see in this film? He must have just been in need of a big paycheck.
Well, I think the paycheck probably factored in to some extent. I also think they gave him, and we'll get into all of this, but this movie arcs perfectly into Fast 5, which is regarded widely as the best of all of the Fast movies.
Okay.
So this in fact, you know what? Here's the first statement for you guys. All right. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. Here's the first statement for you guys. Right?
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of this movie. And again, I am watching these all for the first time here. I have not seen Fast 5, 6. I haven't seen Hobbs. I haven't seen any of this stuff. But Fast 5 is widely regarded as the best of all these movies, right? I think this movie's purpose was as a table setter for the rest of the franchise. It was kind of just, it was. Yeah. They were trying to get the franchise back with the stars here, and I kind of agree with the critics' consensus. It was like, oh. Okay, they're all kind of back, but it just kind of felt a little plotting at times, especially in the first 60 minutes. But this movie was the setup man for Fast 5. It was the wandering cone to Joe Nathan. It was the Michael Fulmer, is that the Twins reliever?
Yeah.
To Joan Duran. Something like that. It was the Jeff Nelson to Mariano Rivera.
You're getting closer. You're getting warmer.
Okay. It was the...
But you're right. The end, yeah. Because the end definitely has me intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great
Like,
cliffhanger,
I'm like,
right?
whoa, what's going
they're
on
going to get him
here?
off the bus.
Whoa, he's on the
here
bus.
we go. Gotta
Judd
see the next
screwed
one.
him. What are we going to do?
And also, I'll note this, too, one more production note, and then we'll get into actual statements. ScreenRant.com ranks this 8th out of the 10 Fast Saga installments. So it is not one of the higher rated of the 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, now we get into statements here. Judd, why don't you lead us off?
All right. I'll start with this statement. Brian O'Connor's career is one of the most incredible rebounds for a guy who probably would have got fired after the first one, and then he's in trouble for the second one, and then he comes back for the fourth one, and now he's again like sort of a decorated FBI agent. The saga of Brian O'Connor by itself is one of the more intriguing things, considering his career arc goes from being in law enforcement to becoming a criminal to allowing Dom to go to then being out of law enforcement and being a criminal himself. A rather remarkable career for the late Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor.
Let's unpack this for a second, shall we? Because you've kind of hit on one of my statements here, too, which is more of a question. How in the world is Brian O'Connor allowed back into any form of law enforcement, especially the FBI? Okay.
Yep.
So he is a multi-time felon as far as we can tell, right? He has aided a criminal in the first movie. He has been caught as a street racer, although maybe because in the second movie he helped track down another criminal. Did they wipe his record clean? So now he's just, I'm not a felon, actually. I helped you guys on this thing. So I actually I was curious. I Googled, can felons be allowed into the FBI? And the FBI website itself says this. The FBI site does indicate that if you've ever been convicted of a felony or have been a significant drug user, you won't be able to pass the top-level security clearance required for FBI agents. And so I don't know how Brian O'Connor is getting around this. You know, he's definitely committed some big felon-level crimes, and the FBI's website itself says you can't be a felon or a heavy drug user. You're not going to pass these tests.
Well, clearly, though, like...
finds his way back in.
Like, criminals and stuff like aid FBI because you guys ever seen Catch Me If You Can? You know, the Leo
it's one of
DiCaprio
my favorite movies. Yeah,
me too. Phenomenal film. But like that's obviously based on a real story. And Frank, is it Abagnale? Yeah. Like he, after his sentence, like he actually ends up helping the FBI to help nail fraudulent documents and fraudulent money and stuff. So there's clearly some type of level that's aid that goes into the FBI. But yeah, you're probably not given, clearance 1 if that's like the top security clearance to be an FBI agent.
Exactly.
I mean, would you? And then, of course, by the end of the movie, like clearly you don't trust him to be an FBI agent. In fact, he is actively extorting his FBI superiors. Dude. There's a point in this movie where so they steal this Hummer with $60 million in heroin, and they park it in some just dark, dimly lit impound lot.
Right.
And then he goes back to the office. And they say, "Where's the heroin, Brian?" And he goes, "It's safe." And they're like, "It's safe? Dude, you're working for us. What are you doing with the heroin?" And he says, "I'll show you where the heroin is, but we should leverage the heroin not just to like get a drug bust, but to lop the head off, the guy who runs the main drug lord guy, right? So I will tell you where it is if you agree to my terms. Oh, and by the way, as part of my terms, as I'm blackmailing my FBI superiors, my guy Dom Toretto, noted felon, streetcar racer, etc., must get completely wiped clean of his record." He just walks into the office. He's got his tie on. He's like, "All right, guys, I'll show you where this heroin is." Dude, you're extorting your FBI bosses.
At one point when he's driving the car and like he has the FBI in his ear before like he pulls it out when he goes in that garage, The FBI, hey, Brian, you got 5 traffic violations there. You better watch out. That's what you're concerned with? Like, I wrote that in my notes. Like, hey, that was 5 traffic violations, O'Connor. It's like, oh, that's what you're concerned with Brian O'Connor. He ran a stop sign and failed to yield, at a yellow light. Like, are you kidding me?
Not worried about the bricks and bricks of heroin that he is hiding from his bosses at the FBI.
That's no problem. Just drive safely, okay, Brian?
Oh, that's amazing, dude. All right, over to Dex.
All right, but my first statement is this is, for better or worse, this is much more suspenseful than the first one. Like, the first one is very kind of goofy and campy, right? It's just a bunch of hilarious street racers. It's that late 90s pop culture now crossing into the millennium with hip-hop more. The second one is just kind of just a messy movie in general. This one is like more billed as like it's a serious movie. Like it's the Brian O'Connor and the Torettos are back together, and Letty has been killed, and Paul Walker's kind of trying to rekindle his relationship with Mia. Like it's more billed as like kind of this suspenseful drama where the first two they're basically comedy. Like you could label action comedy into both of those first two films. This one wasn't funny. Like there aren't really at least purposeful yucks in this movie.
Yeah, it's a lot darker. Even just like. It is literally a dark movie. Like I feel like half the movie I could with a glare in the living room window, I could barely see half the movie. And that's even in some of the reviews that I've read of this movie too, or like the Wikipedia review, that it's just part of the reason why it is not regarded as one of the top 3 or 4 Fast Saga movies is because it's just kind of this, I don't know, it's just like a march to darkness. There's not enough personality, and like Dom Toretto is just this sort of angry, sad guy in this movie, as opposed to this charismatic leader that he was in the first one.
Yeah, I think Dom coming back took some time too, because the second one, Dex is right, was funny, and I feel like Vin Diesel coming back, like he's lots of things. I don't know that he is that he can purposely have a shtick that people are going to laugh at. So yeah, because the second one was like dialogue driven at times and pretty good. This one felt much more like you said, like Dom's angry and what are you gonna do?
Yeah, there was no like Ja Rule character that's just trying to like get the gals and stuff. It didn't have that levity to it.
Absolutely.
All right, back to Judd here.
I think it's
you.
You, Judd? Yeah, it's you,
no, it's
Phil.
Phil.
Well, okay, I've already given like 5 statements. I feel
okay.
So I was just kind of like cycling it back to Judd here. I've jumped in line like 4 times.
Okay.
So, yeah.
My statement is this is really the first one at which I think they started to, and it built up to this, it sounds like, jump the shark on any believability of a car chase at all.
Pish posh.
Like
what
the
wasn't
second,
believable about this movie?
Like the first and second one, they were campy and weird, but like they would clear the roads, right? And it's like, okay, I don't really think that works, but the roads are cleared. You're gonna have a race. You're gonna jump a bridge. Okay, that's sort of cool, far-fetched but cool. But the thing that struck me is the first sign, and this was just the first thing, was when they are mandated to have the car race in real traffic.
Yeah.
And like
who's gonna clear the roads?
No,
Nobody.
Nobody. Yeah. And so you're watching this car race, and I'm like, okay, like this is where they're going to a place where eventually they're going to be jumping their cars out of parking ramps, off buildings, blah, blah, blah. But like this is the one where I think, you know what? They said, we really don't care. If there is not a hint of this car chase being believable, screw it. And they just had all that, and like that race at the end through the caves and
Dude,
stuff
that was
like
badass.
that. It
I
was
love that.
badass. No, I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying it had jumped a shark of, okay, now you've gone from hard to believe to impossible to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, have you guys ever been driving around the freeway or on a road trip and you've actually seen a couple cars racing each other over 100 miles an hour?
Yes.
It's probably happened to me like
so.
maybe 3 times in my life where they're just like they're going on the shoulders or whatever. Mm-hmm. That is terrifying. I always just assume that I'm going to drive up like 3 miles later and just see a car mangled in the jaws of life trying to get someone out. But it's just like a very dangerous thing.
It's their choice.
It just it doesn't interest me.
No, it just seems like
Driving like that.
what's the risk reward ratio just seems a little bit.
No.
Speaking of risk reward ratio, here's my next statement. So at the beginning of the movie, they're hijacking fuel tankers, right? They're trying to get fuel out of these tankers and then resell it. Or I guess
so. Yeah.
We understand what they were doing there, but as the movie played out, it feels like hijacking fuel tankers is a really high risk way to try and make money. Because you're going, well, you're driving 100 miles an hour. You're dealing with these truck drivers that are trying to run you off the road and stuff. Plus, there's just as what happened at the beginning of the movie, there could be an explosion if things go wrong. If that tanker tips over or something and your car is anywhere nearby, like kaboom. But then, as the movie progressed, okay, so at the beginning of the movie, Dom is down in, was it Mexico or whatever, and he's hijacking fuel tankers. But then he actually stumbled upon a great business model when they stole a Hummer full of $60 million in heroin. And then I don't know if you guys noticed this, but as Brian O'Connor was trying to figure things out with the FBI and what to do with it, Dom's on the phone with the drug lord saying, hey, got to be tough that you guys just lost $60 million worth of heroin, huh? Well, I'll show you where that is if you give me $6 million. If you're a criminal, that is a genius business model. I will steal a car full of drugs, and then I will have someone call you, or I'll just call you myself, and I'll sell it back to you for 1/10 of the value of the drugs. So I make a little money. You guys don't lose a lot of money. You're still going to get $54 million out of this thing. You're still in the profit margin, right? I thought that was pretty clever entrepreneurship by a criminal.
It also just seems like unless you're in post-apocalyptic life, like Mad Max style, which the whole thing is based on gasoline and and getting more gasoline, it seems like those tankers, and I'm assuming, but like those tankers of gas are like regulated to that truck, to that company. So how are you just selling like a tank of gas on the black market like that?
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem believable.
Roll up to 7-Eleven and be like, "Hey, you guys want to buy some diesel?"
Yeah.
Yeah, if this is Mad Max and he's selling stuff to the tow cutter, like it's different. But I gotta imagine that's like Speedway gas, and like, are you reselling it to BP? Like, what's going on? Doesn't make any sense.
Two guesses. I think because it's in Mexico, perhaps you're supposed to believe it's not as regulated as it would be in the States.
It's like totally wild west in Mexico.
The other thing is, and this is what by this episode of the series had become clear, they were running out of ways to up the stakes here, right? Because like the first one is sort of cool with the trucks and they shoot. I mean, it's not super plausible, but it's trucks and you're hijacking trucks. The second one, deviates to a completely different state, blah blah blah. I think by this one they said, oh, okay, what could we do that's different and even more risky?
Yeah, and how many things?
Gasoline.
How many things can you really hijack with cars?
Right.
I mean, you can how many things can you put in semi-truck trailers? I guess is kind of the answer to that.
Right, but I mean, I think they just kept saying, okay, we've gone from trucks to this, and now what? Let's do gasoline trucks. That's even more dangerous. Next, let's do that. So that's my guess.
Here's my other question off this with the heroin Hummer, let's call it. So you have somehow stumbled into, you are somehow driving a Hummer full of $60 million in bricks of heroin, and you have to hide it for 48 hours until you can figure out what to do with it.
Yep.
Where do you rank dark impound lot on your list of places that you would bring a Hummer full of $60 million in heroin?
I think it's actually pretty smart, right? Because it's a police/FBI lot. It's going to be hard to get into. I actually don't mind. I actually think that's a pretty smart one, especially if I'm a crooked FBI agent. Which I guess Brian O'Connor is, but he's not. He's got a good heart, but I don't know.
Impound lots not, and I've had my car towed a few times in my life, but I guess I don't see what happens when they bring it in. They just bring it in. Do they not look in the car at all? They just park the car. They don't go through it or anything.
But this is a police one, so I think they do process it. But if you're the agent who brings the car in, you probably have some control. Okay. Because you're talking about your car being towed to one that's run by the city
by
itself.
Impark or something.
Yeah, and I think that's a different ballgame.
Dude,
so
I had. Oh my God! You guys know just down the street from the Hubbard Studios, there's right behind Stub and Herbs. There's like a Domino's down there, but there's a kind of a dark parking lot behind Stub and Herbs.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something. And I went down there to go. It was the workday was finishing up, and our old coworker and producer Marley McMillan, who used to produce your old radio show way back in the day, Marley and I went to go get some wings and a couple beers down the street. And so we jumped in my car, we drove down, and the parking lot there's probably like 12 spots, and there's just a guy sitting in the parking lot, like a parking lot attendant. And we parked. I think it was a Domino's, but whatever it was, let's call it a Domino's. We park in a spot in that lot that says Domino's parking only. Mm-hmm. And so get out of the car, and I knew what we were doing because we were going to go into Stub and Herbs. So I asked the parking lot attendant guy. I said, "Hey, are we allowed to park here, or should I move the car?" And he goes, "Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it." I said, "You sure? Because it says Domino's parking. We're just going to go in there for like 45 minutes and grab some wings and a couple beers, and we'll be done." He goes, "Don't worry about it." Came back 45 minutes later, car's gone.
Of course.
And the parking lot attendant guy is gone. I think his job, he was working on behalf of the tow truck. I think he gets a commission for making the call into the impound lot. He lied to me. And it's my fault because I parked in the wrong spot.
So can I
$275.
Nice.
Yeah. Can I tell my brief, horrible situation that also happened to me just like that if we're on this topic? So 15 minutes after my last day of high school, like, here's the real world, Declan. Like, your last day, you all walk out together. I don't care admitting this. I went to the liquor store with a buddy of mine who had a fake ID. Okay.
Okay, whatever. It's a statute of limitations. You're fine.
Yeah. We don't condone
this. We don't condone this behavior to any kids who are listening.
It's actually not too far from here. We parked our car in a church parking lot behind the liquor store on a Friday at 2:20 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
You're tempting the law and you're tempting
the Lord. So my buddy, who may or may not have had the ID, he goes to the store, and I realize, I need to go to Walgreens CVS to like pick up a Gatorade. I think we're gonna go to the beach afterwards. Maybe take out some cash to make sure I can, buy these Gatorades, right? I come back, and my car is already lifted off the ground from the tow truck. And this dude says, "Yeah, you can't park here. Like, this is church parking only." And I was like, "Well, dude, it's Friday at 2:20. Like, there's no mask going on." And I said, "Come on, man. I just graduated high school. You're really going to tow my car?" And he says, "You have not." And then he goes, "No, this is it." He goes, "You have 2 minutes to get me $100 and I'll put your car down."
What?
So I ran back to an ATM, took out $100.
Is that legal?
He put my car down, and then I didn't get towed away. He made $100. He just made $100 off a kid. That was my, like, literally 10 minutes into my 18 adult life. After high school, that's what happened to me.
And you saved some money there because it was probably going to be $200 to $300 to get your car out of the impound lot. So you did save some money and some time.
Don't mess with churches, dude.
Don't mess with churches.
I got towed. I got towed in '89 from behind the Big Ten. There was a church right behind the Big Ten on campus. Yeah. I parked there. Car was not there.
No.
Left a very angry message for the priest.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I was very
My father?
upset. I was very upset by that.
Hello.
Altar boy for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, my next statement. You know what? So in watching three of the four, and as Dex said, the Tokyo Drift one, not really part of this. So in watching the 3 Fast and Furiouses that began this series, I've picked up on a pattern here. And my statement of the pattern is they purposely don't have really good bad guys because they don't want anyone to overshadow their characters.
Oh, well.
For now. Actually, this actually becomes a huge problem, doesn't it? Later?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It does.
But
like,
in this,
like a problem that kind of like nuked the franchise. Okay.
Interesting. But in this one again, so in 2...
If you smell...
Oh, that's interesting. So in the second one in Miami, my opinion was that bad guy was okay, but he was very much like a stereotypical bad guy, and the rest of the cast was actually pretty good. In this one, that guy who plays the ultimate bad guy is a character actor. He's got a long line of films, but he's no Malkovich, right? He's not important really. And I think at this point in time, they were very much trying not to overshadow Paul Walker, Vin Diesel, and anyone else that they considered at that point to be really the lifeblood of the franchise.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was all. I think the first and the fourth, especially when it's the band together. It's supposed and Dom Toretto is kind of like he's the bad guy in the first one.
Yeah, you're right.
And so,
Right.
but he's like a Stone Cold Steve Austin anti-hero, when he's a bad guy, but you're cheering for him.
James Deanish, right? Like,
yes.
Could you like him?
And actually, just to jump in line here because it makes sense. My next statement is. The end of this movie is a brilliant setup for a sequel.
Oh yeah.
For two reasons. Number one, it's a cliffhanger. You know, oh my God, they're driving to pull Dom out of that prisoner's bus. But the other reason why is because they show Dom. You know, Dom has it's kind of the old face turn in wrestling where he's a bad guy, but you're starting to feel a little empathy for him, and then all of a sudden, like something happens to him, and you're like, oh man, I'm cheering for that guy now. That he righted a wrong and did a good thing by helping capture this drug lord, and still got the 25 years to life, and then he said, I'm tired of running. Like he kind of gave up his prisoner or his prisonous or felonious ways, and still gets hit with the book and is sitting there with all the other convicts. And so at the end of the movie, you have this complete emotional turn on Dom too. You're kind of rooting for him throughout the movie, but now at the end of the movie, you're like, I like that guy. It's like I want to see more of that guy in another movie coming out in 2 summers called Fast Five.
You're right.
So it makes me want to watch Fast Five like tomorrow, even though we're not going to review it for probably several weeks from now. So we'll see. All
right. My next statement is Dom is weirdly comfortable with Brian O'Connor dating his sister. Like he's weirdly comfortable. But he really is. And, like, look, I never was a fan of, like, oh, I'm the big older brother, and I protect my little sister. And, like, he makes the comment in the first movie, like, you break her heart, I break your neck. And, he tries to, like, play the tough guy. But then Brian O'Connor waltzed back into their life. And then there's that weird scene in the kitchen where basically Brian and her get it on when she's coming home with the groceries while Dom's in the garage fixing a car. And he's okay with this. Like, I'm really confused watching this movie, trying to understand the relationship between Dom, Brian, and Mia. Mia being the little sister, and I assume she's the little sister of Dom. Mm-hmm. And he's just okay with this, like, kind of weirdo friend that was an enemy and then became a friend, but then it helped him out to get away. And now he's back in the picture, and he's okay with him fooling around with his sister again. It's just a weird love triangle dynamic, and I can't figure it out.
I think the reason why there was a lot of apprehension in the first movie from Dom is because he didn't trust Brian. And he trusted him initially, but then he lost trust a little bit, and he was always kind of trying to figure out, is Brian a cop? So he's sniffing around. And then by the end of the fourth movie, he trusts him a lot more. They get into that fight, and then Brian tells him what was really happening behind the scenes and stuff. And so I think he had built up a lot more trust in Brian, and like, okay, I guess there are worse guys that my sister could be with.
It's amazing how quickly the rifts between characters in this franchise end. Yeah. Like in 2, when O'Connor's old pal is like, you screwed me, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, let's work together. And in this one, like the Dom and O'Connor thing at the end of 1 was really intriguing, and they like sort of just mend fences, and like Dex said, now they're just all back together and Mia's back in it. It's funny because they like at the start of these films try to set up this plausible tension, and then they dismiss it almost immediately, and it's like, okay, let's go back to it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on the fight, but Judd, I think we're back to you here.
Okay, nobody takes a beating and then isn't even given plausible makeup like Brian O'Connor to show that he got his ass whooped.
This was exactly what I was going to say. Literally, like he took like 15 unprotected punches to the ground, and he like had a slightly bloody lip.
Slightly, and like no head, no forehead damage, no nothing. It's like makeup. Can you please put some fake blood on, dude?
Oh my God. I'm so glad you went down this path, because we've all seen enough like UFC fights where, you get into the ground impound and someone gets past the guard, right? And they're just throwing haymakers at someone, unprotected haymakers, stop the fight. And Dom hit with full wind-up haymakers with Brian O'Connor just, back to the ground. Hits him a half dozen times in the face. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to cut to his face. He's going to be a bloody mess. Like, literally has not, his eyelashes aren't even out of whack, right? He's got like a little blood coming out of the left side of his lip. It was hilarious. Yeah. Declan, any final statements from you?
I love how the FBI, back to like kind of the incompetence of the FBI, in 2009 was still waiting on a fax to secure information if they had the right or wrong bad guy. Fax. A fax in 2000. I mean, it's 2009, so I guess 13 years ago. Yeah. And like, to be honest, I'm actually floored away. I'm not airing out laundry inside the office, but like, there's a fax machine issue going on in the office today. And I'm even thinking like, man, there's still fax machines that are like still around.
How many people are affected by that in our office?
At least 2.
Okay.
And it just blew my mind that the FBI, too, of all things, because like businesses do their things, but like the FBI in 2009 was still waiting on a fax to secure information before pursuing the next lead, pursuing the next course of action to arresting someone. I found it hilarious.
It is kind of quick how technology evolution sneaks up on you, right? The people who had pagers 25 years ago thought they were all innovative. And now, I mean, 2009, we had iPhones in 2009.
Yeah, we did.
So, not that iPhones completely got rid of fax machines, but I got one more here for you guys. I know what they were doing at the end of the movie, running through the tunnel, but to me, it felt like a potentially huge mistake to let what looked to be about 20 cars worth of drug lords know where the border secret tunnels are. Because if the main guy, like the main drug lord guy, didn't even know, he was like, "What are we doing? Oh my God, we're gonna crash into the rocks, right? Oh my God!" It's like, no, these are secret tunnels that you could use to send drugs back and forth across the border. And I don't know, are there military or police vehicles sitting on either side of that tunnel on a regular basis? I'm just saying, a lot of drug lords now know how to carry drugs back and forth across the border because of that last chase scene.
And it's intriguing as well. Those tunnels are incredibly smooth for the most part for driving.
Wouldn't there be like animals and stuff in there?
Yes.
Potholes and
I don't think that they would basically be smooth roads, which is what they were.
They're like NASCAR tracks somehow. Just no bumps at all.
All right.
Any final statements from you guys?
I got another one.
Okay.
I'm going to give the so in this incarnation, Phil, you said we've done, 18 or 19 AMRs now in this incarnation of it?
10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's like 17. Yeah.
All right. In these 17 films, I am going to rank the 2 actors that I deem to be the most uncomfortable to watch with members of the opposite sex. Tom Cruise is 1. He wins for sure. Vin Diesel is 2.
Okay, yes.
Yes,
I had this written down.
And women does not, and here's the other thing: Dom Toretto doesn't really need like Brian's got it taken care of. Okay, Paul Walker's character, handsome, chicks loved him. That's awesome. Like he's got this taken care of. Vin or Dom is the muscle. Every scene he has with a member of the opposite sex, in my opinion, I want to just cringe.
The Gadot scene is painful. Like when he's talking about like what he looks for in a woman and stuff. Like I wrote down too, like because Brian or Paul Walker, I should say, like he has that Keanu to him. Like is he reading cue cards off the screen right now as he's delivering this line? Like it kind of works for him. Where the way Dom was talking about it was cringy. Like I'm with Judd actually here. It's painful.
I didn't notice it as much, but yeah, it's just he's just such a brooding presence. Yeah. He's even calling guys the P word, right? Wussy, but swap it out.
Yep.
It's like he's just like he is a bundle of toxic masculinity with a little bit of charm, and he just kind of broods his way into his interactions with women. So, all right. Any other final statements here off Fast 4?
No, I'm good.
You guys good?
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So before we get into our final rankings here, we're going to rank it's the definitive villain ranking and then the entertainment value ranking. A shout out to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They've been around for over 100 years, helping businesses maximize their level of just safety and risk management. So if you want to find out more about how Federated can help your business reach new heights, go to federatedinsurance.com. Full list of industries. You can also find, based on your location, who your marketing representative is. At Federated Mutual Insurance Company, it's our business to protect yours. All right, so Arturo Braga is the villain in this movie. And I should say, too, that the top villains that we have reviewed in the reboot of Action Movie Rewind are Cyrus the Virus from Con Air, the only 10 across the board. Castor Troy from Face Off is a 9. Dom Toretto from the original Fast and the Furious is an 8.2. The aliens from Independence Day are a 7.8. And then Chong Li and Surfer Bodhi from Bloodsport and Point Break are both a 7.3. This list is hilarious because we have the F5 Tornadoes from Twister are a 6.3. At the very bottom is the British car-loving gangster from Gone in 60 Seconds, a 1.3.
Awful.
So, Judd, how would you rate on a 1 to 10 scale Arturo Braga? Criteria being how iconic, ruthless, and charismatic is he?
Okay, so he's not iconic for sure. And I felt like this was the second consecutive Fast and Furious we've watched in which, again, they just sort of went with a cliched bad guy and like the bad guys are important, but they're certainly not huge parts in my opinion. I'm gonna give them a 4. Like, it's fine. It serves its purpose, and that guy can act. But I just don't feel like there was a lot of there. And to your point, Dom is sort of the bad guy, and Dom's a good bad guy, but in this one, he is sort of the bad guy for a while, and then you start to like him. So if we're going with our 2-girl, I'm going to give him a 4.
Okay.
I would give him a 3, right? He's not as charismatic. I mean, he kills Letty, or he does do that at least. So like there is some ruthlessness to him. But Dom even like bullies him pretty good. Like Dom does a good job at messing with him too. So like he's kind of a pushover too. So he's like a 3 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think there comes like a point where if you're nondescript, you're probably like a 3, 4, or 5. If you're kind of ruining the movie a little bit, then I'm going to give you like a 2, a 1, or a 0.
Yes.
Arturo Braga didn't ruin the movie, but he was background elevator music in this movie.
Yeah.
It really had nothing. It was just, he was an anonymous drug lord is basically what he was.
Yep.
And so I'm with Declan. He's a 3, which makes it a 3.3, tying him for the second worst villain next to Senator Trent from Hard to Kill. And I think, Senator Trent, in retrospect, probably deserves to be above Arturo Braga, but this is a democratic process. So I love how we have 3 movies, by the way, where the villain is personal demons. Basically all Tom Cruise movies. Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun the original, and Days of Thunder. All right, entertainment value, 1 to 10 scale. Con Air leads the way here at a 9.7. Top Gun Maverick, a 9.3. Independence Day, 8.7. Fast and the Furious, 8.5. Top Gun the original, 8.3. Air Force One, Face Off, Point Break, Twister, RoboCop, and Bloodsport, all a 6 or above. Too Fast, Too Furious, Hard to Kill, a 5 or above. And then the 2 worst movies are Gone in 60 Seconds, a 4.7, and Days of Thunder, a 4. Entertainment value, 1 through 10.
So I'm going to... This, of the 3 Fast and Furious films that we have done, to me, is the worst one. I thought the first one was actually pretty good, and I thought the second one was entertaining. It might not have been as good, but it was entertaining as the first one. To hear you say, Phil, that this sets up the next one makes perfect sense. I think that was exactly the plan. But in doing so, I'm going to ding them a bit. I'm going to give it a 5. Yeah. I think it was okay. I didn't hate it, but I don't know that it offered me the overall entertainment experience that the first 2 did.
I like it more than the second one. Actually, I would watch this over the second one. I would. I don't mind this one. Even though it's maybe intentionally in the wrong way, it's just more serious. So I take it seriously more. And it bridges into the next basically saga that really opens the entire door. I haven't seen the next few in order. I've seen like some scenes here and there, but I haven't seen any of the other ones after this. And I know after this is when it starts to get even like more hilarious, but like theatrical and all that fun stuff that like we would probably want more in these movies. So I think it lays the groundwork for that. So for me, it's a 6. It's a 6 out of 10.
Okay. It's a 4 for me. I just wasn't that into this movie. The first half was just, I don't know. I just needed more. It's like, okay, the band's back together. It just kind of felt flat for the first half, and then it picked up a little bit in the second half. I'm excited, though, that this movie serves as a launching pad for Fast 5 and then going forward. But combined, it is a 5 on a 1 through 10 scale, which ties it with Hard to Kill as the third worst action movie that we have reviewed to this point. So there you go. And that's the season finale here.
I'm gonna have to watch 5 soon. And then
maybe we watch 5 at some point. Maybe it's a bye week thing. Maybe we watch 5 during the bye week.
Spoiler. So in real life, Paul Walker dies during 7. Is that correct, Declan?
Yes, 5
like
and
2004,
6, and then
2014 or something, or 15.
He died during the production of 7, and his brothers and some others like do fill-ins for him. They had to kind of rework and rewrite some of the scenes, but yes, he is written off after 7. 7's the last appearance.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a buzzkill.
I'm going to watch all those now. I got to see how this happens.
I know. I'm hooked too. I'm ready for this. This is great. So keep the suggestions coming for action movies that you want us to review. We'll keep stockpiling a list, and we'll get back into it sometime down the road here. But that's it. Action Movie Rewind here on Mackey and Judd.